Actually, speaking of these particular themes, I guess we should move on to our next one.
Yeah. U19 is another interesting series by Yuji Kimura, and it's basically adult. It's like a young adult dystopian kind of story, but it has heavy like allusions to kind of oppressive authoritarian like regimes in the past, and it also references things that are actually like a thing in the Japanese educational system, like the impetus for this takeover by this grown up party to like take over like the world basically. It's because of a backlash against the Tory education policies. So there's like some heavy like commentary on the Japanese education system like evident in this, which is pretty interesting. But the basic idea, like kind of the easiest idea for I think most people to understand and get behind, is that it's basically kids next door with teenagers and like superpowers. Like, I guess some of the characters in Kids Next Door had 2 superpowers, but most of them just used weapons and stuff. Like, the basic point of this series is, like, they're gonna all get, like, superpowers based on their libido. So presumably it's basically all based on, like, their hormonal, like, impulses that kind of drive their powers. So it's, like, something that only they as, like, teenagers have, like, this special ability in this world. So that's kind of interesting. Like, the first chapter is very much centered around this setup, about establishing this world, establishing this main character, like, Eiji, I think, and, like, his love interest, and, like, establishing the relationship between them, and kind of, like, the struggles that kids, people have to go through in this world, like how a lot of people are oppressed based on, like, their level of grown-upness or whatever. Like, they're divided into caste systems, and...
Yeah, it's this interesting thing where, like, the ranking system they have in place, basically, it guarantees equality, but it's not necessarily equal. Because, like, this particular ranking system that they have in place basically guarantees that, like, everybody has some sort of income and some sort of a career or a job in place, but, like, you still have that thing where it's like, oh, well, if you're rank D, you're not really worth much, and you have, like, these really menial, like, or labor-intensive tasks or whatnot, but you still don't make a ton of money.
Yeah, you can't move outside of your, like, caste system. Like, you're pretty much stuck in there. The benefit is, yes, you get a home and you get a job. Those are guaranteed to you. But, like, your quality of living will never go up. And so, if you're in the lower classes, there's no way to climb the social ladder. So it can be very frustrating in that sense. And of course, you're looked down upon the lower class you are in.
So yeah, like I said earlier, you're equal, but not really. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So, like, there's some good context here for some social and, like, political commentary. Probably not going to go that deep into it, just because it's, like, ostensibly going to be a battle manga. But, like, there's some good, interesting grounding here. Like, there's, like, really interesting ideas behind the concept of this series. And that makes me kind of intrigued about it. It also has some pretty nice character designs. So that's also a good plus in its favor.
Yeah, the character designs are definitely interesting. And I appreciate how grotesque a lot of the facial expressions can be every once in a while, especially from the adults.
Yeah.
Those I really enjoy. Yeah, personally, I thought, I did not think this was bad, but, like, the thing is, like, I agree, I think this has a lot of interesting ideas, but I'm also not sure if I would say I think they're really, like, I don't know if they're executed super amazingly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest problem with this first chapter is that it feels incomplete.
Like it's a little on the nose. It's not exactly super subtle. What with yeah, because like.
But I mean, to be fair, it's not like Kids Next Door with Settle or like most shonen.
No, I mean, of
subtle.
course. But when you got a guy coming into the school auditorium, leading an assembly, and you clearly see he's wearing an armband that, that's totally not reminiscent of Nazi Germany at all. No, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing where it's like, I see what they're doing.
It's weird that they make that compared to Nazi Germany, because it's like more reminds me of Mao Zedong era China. But whatever. Basically mixing up different, authoritarian regimes in history. Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting in a sense. But, overall, I thought it was interesting, but, I'm not convinced so far that any of this is really going to be super thoughtful at all. Like you said, this is probably going to be mostly a battle manga, but, I'm willing to see where it goes. Actually, I thought the best part of the chapter was a lot of the beginning scenes in the classroom at the start, where you have basically I think he's the gym teacher, or if not, he looks like a gym teacher.
Oh no, he's just a regular teacher.
He looks like a gym teacher.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, you have this guy teaching this class, basically going over all these rules and stuff, and getting on kids for these really stupid, silly things, like having pencil cases in class, and getting on Eiji, the main character, for sewing in class when boys can't sew. That's not a thing boys do, and how Eiji actually kind of stands up for himself. Now, I like that moment where he's like, why can't boys sew? That's I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, he also points out that, what the teacher was doing was more distracting and, more detrimental to their education than, what he was doing. And then he also points out that standing in the hallway is also really stupid because he can't go learn while he's out in the hallway. And so then he goes on and, says, who cares that if my dad's ranked D, he's got a job that, supports the town and he's living a happy life. And then eventually the teacher is just dumb speechless. And so he's like, wow, it's so commendable you don't discriminate between ranks. Give him a round of applause, everyone. And so it's the teacher is such a weird dude because he's this really irrational, erratic person, but his mood can change and the way he treats someone can change on a dime. So it's he's pretty crazy.
See, I took that he was just being condescending.
He was being, he was being sort of condescending, but at the same time, he was, being a little bit sincere, too, because later on, when, the love interest tells the teacher that she's only, helping him out, so that, she gets, a good, evaluation and racks up points, he's like, wow, it's good that you're so honest about that. So, it's both a little condescending, but also a little bit sincere, appreciation for the honesty. So I found that pretty interesting. He's quite a character.
See, now this is the series I relate to over We Live or Learn. Not that I ever got into much trouble as a student, but I definitely when I went to school, I definitely had moments where my teachers or the faculty would enforce all kinds of rules that we had in place on our campus or whatever. And there would be times where they would enforce these rules to really annoying extents, and I'd just be like, well, what, we're not doing anything wrong. You're just kind of pulling your weight around. Oh, look at me. I'm a cool ass teacher. I can just do whatever I want because you're kids, whatever. I think this series kind of speaks to that part of my adolescence. So I appreciate that because I definitely could relate to this a little bit more. Just because I feel like I was that kind of student to where, I wouldn't just take that kind of thing lying down. I would constantly, well, not constantly, I should say, but I had moments where I would try to point out, well, hey, why is this thing that we're doing wrong? It's not really disrupting anything. Just like with AG, yeah, if anything, you're disrupting our learning, not me, And of course, I would get, I got detention every once in a while, and then I learned not to do that anymore because I was pretty spineless back then when I was a kid. But yeah, this definitely related to my adolescent sensibilities a bit more. Like, it's interesting because I feel like We Never Learn and U19 are kind of different sides of the same coin in terms of the demographic it's really trying to sell itself to, if that makes any sense. Like, because these are both series that I think are obviously geared towards teenagers.
Well, I don't know if they're different sides of the same coin because, like, they're not, like, polarly opposite, but they're both tackling, like, the same kind of, like, frustrations and, like, anxieties that, like, young tween teenagers, like, goes through and, like, might kind of be feeling. So I think the biggest appeal of U19 is that it does have this kids next door-esque, like, man, these adults are stupid. What are they? Their, like, ideas are, like, totally, like, not helpful at all. What are they doing?
Except it's a lot more political.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more political and a lot, it's like, it is actually rooted in things that actually, like, make more sense and, like, actually are, like, legitimate rather than, like, kids next door, like, have to go to bedtime early. Oh, we have to eat
we have to brush our teeth.
We have to brush. Yeah,
let's start our own organization, guys. This sucks.
Like, in Kids Next Door, they were fighting against things like these stupid kids. Like, the kids, like, really should have just been doing all along. Like, they were, a lot of the things that they were rebelling against are things like kids rebel against, but, they're things you should actually do because it's healthy and actually good for you. Whereas in U19, they're criticizing things that are actually detrimental and are actually, like, not helpful at all to what the goals are of the education system. So, yeah, U19 it's like Kids Next Door, but smarter with its premise. So that's pretty interesting. I think just in that regard, I think it could, like, attract an audience that kind of feels similarly. Like, I don't know how the unrest is in Japan among students, but generally the Japanese education system has been, like, highly criticized and, like very much, people have been thinking that it needs major reform for a year. And, it was a big reason why Assassination Classroom was so resonant with so many people and, like, so successful is because it was, like, criticizing the modern Japanese education system and, like, it was putting it in the kid's perspective and being like, yeah, I want a teacher like this who, like, really understands our strengths and wants to help us instead of, like, forcing, like, really putting this undue stress and pressure on us to just perform for the sake of performance. So, U19 isn't, like, as, I don't know if it's approaching it with the same kind of, like, subtlety, like, it's not as it's more in your face than Assassination Classroom was about that, but, it's still tackling, like, a very relevant subject for its target audience that I think, could attract some readers just like Assassination Classroom did with its premise. So, yeah, I think it has a lot of potential. I think that to, like, really judge it, you need to read the second chapter because where the first chapter left off, it felt very incomplete. It leaves on this great cliffhanger, but, the first chapter was just establishing the world and the central two characters. So, like, the power system hasn't been introduced. Like, they hinted at the Garage Kids, which is, like, the resistance group of kids that, have the libido powers. But, like, they haven't actually shown up. There hasn't actually been, we haven't actually seen the powers in action. So, like, it has a great premise, but as a battle series, like, how it executes that, that's a whole nother element of how successful the series is going to be. So I think we're going to need to wait to judge that before we can judge, like, how successful the series is going to be, like, overall.
But yeah, I think overall these two are not bad. Like, it's not like I didn't enjoy reading, like, We Never Learn in particular, but, like, I didn't hate it, but until I read Maxie's article, I didn't really see the worth in it, honestly. I was just kind of like, oh, it's another rom-com. I don't really like rom-coms, whatever. I guess I'm just going to write it off. Which I will admit was not fair of me, honestly. I will say that these two are not bad, though. I think out of the two that we have got the chance to read at all, like out of the 6 that are coming out, I think I am a little more interested in U19 in particular. But I kind of can't wait till, like, when all of the first chapters of these 6 come out, like, what's going to be the one that I like the most? Or I guess that both of us like the most. I think we should talk about that in the future, because I think that would be really interesting.
Probably will. So,
because I think so far the one out of the 6 that I'm like the most interested in by far, because of the people behind it is Dr. Stone, and I can't wait to see if like that ends up still being the first chapter that I end up liking the most.
Yeah, I mean, I'm most looking forward to Robot Laserbeam, but like it's gonna be interesting to see like how all these turn out and like which ones had the like best first chapters like at the end of the day. Right now, I like both of We Never Learn and U19's first chapters. I give the edge to We Never Learn just because I enjoy the characters like more, and I also related to the premise more. So. But I think both have a lot of potential, so I'm really interested to see where they go.
I like that both of our backgrounds are kind of influencing our choices in which we like better. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Clearly, you are way more studious than I ever will be.
Yeah, probably, definitely.
I can't even be mad at that, honestly.